Okay, we're kicking off this vlog. Even though it is way past the start of the readathon, I actually have a few updates for you. I think the first week of June has passed already. First June started on a Wednesday, so yeah, I have been trying to find time to film, but I've only been able to find now because I wasn't really feeling well a few hours ago, but I was lying in bed and now I feel a bit better, so I'm going to update you. So I've actually already finished my first book for this readathon, 1 out of 14 down. Yes, the book that I actually finished was Gallant by V.E. Schwab. Let me tell you my thoughts about it. Trigger warnings for bullying, self-harm, ableism, parental abandonment, child neglect, death of a sibling, and death of parents. I may have missed out a few, but these were what I managed to catch. So what is Gallant about? In Gallant, we follow this girl called Olivia Pryor. She has grown up in Maryland's school for girls, and all she has of her past is her mother's journal. But one day, a letter invites Olivia to come home to Gallant. But just nice, in her mother's journal, she has one letter written to Olivia, and she mentions that she'll be safe as long as she stays away from Gallant. But despite this letter, she goes back to Gallant anyway, and from there she finds out about Gallant's secrets and she is determined to uncover them. So about this book, I agree with many other reviewers who also thought that this felt more like a middle grade than YA as opposed to what it was marketed as. I don't know, it just gives me very middle grade vibes. There's nothing particularly YA about it unless you count the fantasy horror parts. Those parts were kind of scary, like the gothic horror parts, but other than that, it really felt like a middle grade. And Olivia also cannot speak, so there is that representation there. So what I felt about it, I'm reading my review. I was enamored by the writing at the start. I think I wrote down quotes, but it's on my computer. I guess I'll put them on the screen here. But I started to feel more detached for the book as it progressed, and I started to care less about the plot and the story and the characters. I barely connected with any of the characters. I didn't feel the absence of Olivia's speech much because she signs and other people talk at her, I guess, or some of them knows how to sign also, so it's quite interesting to read about that. There are also illustrations in this book which are super beautiful, but after a while they started to repeat themselves. It started to become less interesting but rather like more repetitive, and towards the end I felt like once it was reviewed like what those drawings were, I started to drift away from the story. And the ending, I was very lukewarm about it, so overall I gave it 3 stars. A mediocre start to this readathon, but yeah, I already tracked the book in the tracker, and I think I logged it for host fave, 1-word title, and the last letter first letter thing. And for non-reading prompts, I logged it for cozy reading time and guilt-free activity because I didn't film it, but recently I started watching Spy X Family, I think that's how you say it, based on a recommendation from my friend, and it's so cute. Oh my gosh, Anya! It's adorable, and I'm very sad that there's only 9 episodes out so far, but it's okay, we will try to patiently wait for the next ones to come out. Yeah, so there was that, so I counted that as my guilt-free activity because each episode is 30 minutes. And for cozy reading time, I didn't film anything, but while I was reading Gallant, I kind of snuggled up on my bed and just read it. Because I locked Gallant, which was my last letter first letter, I had a few options for the next book because it starts with the letter T, right? So I spun the wheel and from there I started reading Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Tales from the Cafe. I'm counting this one as a title. Yes, so it's a very short book. Oh, I didn't mention yet, I managed to borrow this from the library. Oh my gosh, even though it's such a thin copy, and I technically could have just read the ebook, I wanted to show it to you. So yeah, I also borrowed, let me go get it. This one is completely unrelated to my TBR, but the moment I saw it in the new arrival section, I had to get it. I placed the audiobook on hold, and it's coming in like 7 weeks, so hopefully we will get the audiobook and read it at the same time. I don't think I'll get to this in whateverthon, but we shall see. Okay, so the book that I got was Set on You by Amy Leah, and I got it because I was interested in it. And also look at this. Can you see? Ali Hazelwood blurbed it. She said just the right dose of delicious steam. So if you didn't already know, you must be a new viewer of my channel, but I really love the Love Hypothesis. So I'm just intrigued to give it a try, although it has already gotten less than 4 on Goodreads, which is a bit sad. I don't know why, but we shall see when we will get to it. So these were the 2 books that I newly borrowed from the library. Yes. Not much thoughts on Tales from the Cafe so far. I like that there is a character map though, character relationship map. Can you see it? Can you see it? Yeah, so I don't know if the first book had it because I read the first book via the ebook, and you can go watch my experience there. It has been a few weeks since I finished Before the Coffee Gets Cold, so starting to forget a little bit, but I still remember the main details. So yeah, very intrigued to read this. I'm at page 10 only. Yeah, this has only 192 pages, so yes. And last update is actually Blood Sugar, because I started Blood Sugar before I finished Gallant. It was just like a simultaneous thing, so I am still counting that I'm reading Tales from the Cafe after Gallant because it was the book that I picked up after Gallant. Blood Sugar, it was kindly sent to me by Times Reads, as I mentioned before in my TBR video. You can go watch it. This one is very interesting because it's about Ruby Simon, who may be a murderer but she is not a sociopath. We go back and forth a few time points in her life when she met different people and how she felt about them, what happened to them, and how she might possibly have killed them. So I was very intrigued from the first chapter, and I'm just very, very in awe by the writing and everything. I'm listening to the audiobook as well at the same time as I'm reading this. You can see my 2 tabs. I'm at page 105, the chapter 17 titled Lamp. Very, very intrigued by this, and actually I wouldn't have been tempted to pick it up if not for Jamie from Times Reads. So very thankful to her and to Times Reads. I'll update in a few days, I guess, when I have another update. And yes, hopefully this vlog is more interesting than my previous one. Okay, I'm very worried because this looks way too big for my laptop, but okay. Oh no, I think it's way too big also. Look at my laptop. Oh my god. Help! Hi, so I am finally back after a few days with an update for this readathon. So I have finished 2 books, one yesterday night and one just now, and I've finally gotten my shit together because basically yesterday I went out with my friends to eat mookata and it was great, but I was very drained after that because it was after work and everything. So I couldn't bring the energy to update, I couldn't bring the energy to run my ratings through Corpal, track it in the tracker for whateverthon. So I finally gotten my shit together. I finally finished both books, have my ratings for them, and now I'm finally going to give you my reviews and thoughts about it. Okay, so the first one, I think you saw it just now and I briefly raised it. It's Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Yes, so this one, I believe I've already told you that I was reading it, right? So I was mainly reading this on the commute. So I brought this with me to work. Then I read it on the way there and on the way back. Because It's a relatively thin book, and you can see that the paperback is not like the normal kind. It's kind of more protective, so I thought that it would be easier and less damaging if I brought this. And I also got this from the library, and I tried my best to maintain the condition of it. So yeah, it's so beautiful, right? So my thoughts about it, I need to put this down to take my phone out to read you my thoughts. Before that, let me read you the trigger warnings first. If you consider this a spoiler, I'll put a spoiler warning on the screen and you can skip ahead, but let me just read you my review. Trigger warnings for abandonment, cancer, death, infertility, miscarriage, murder, suicidal thoughts, suicide attempt, terminal illness, suicide, car accident. I have no idea how, because I really enjoyed Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I enjoyed Tales from the Cafe even more. Like, what is this? So as I mentioned, I was reading this on the commute, right? I wasn't expecting it to be so emotional, but I started tearing up, and I'm not someone that cries easily from books, and even more so when it's in public, you know. In public, I'm just like, maintain my emotions. Sometimes, you know, the feeling when you're in your own room, then you read, you get in the vibes, and then you're more easily influenced by the book such that you cry more easily, something like that. Yeah, so I'm so surprised that this book made me tear up in public. Again, we have 4 stories following the customers in this cafe as they try to travel back to the past, right? The first 2 stories hit me the most. Oh my gosh. The first 2 were the ones that I read on a commute and teared up over. The second one, I started sniffling even though this lady was right beside me. I was like so embarrassed. I was like, oh my god, please just think that it's a sinus thing. Like, oh my gosh, very, very emotional. I gave it 4.5 stars because I enjoyed this more than Before the Coffee Gets Cold. And because this is translated fiction, right, there were also times when I felt like the writing was a little bit confusing and it took me a while to understand. Not sure if it's because it's translated fiction or it's just a my problem kind of thing, but I read one sentence that not so well translated, I think, because for example, it was all very confused, but the English should have been, it was all very confusing. So it's just minor things like that, and I don't know the Japanese language also, so I have no idea like how the translation process was carried out, but still very beautiful because there were times when the writing was so good that it just shook me and can evoke tears in me, you know. So yeah, it's such a good story, and I'm very excited because I thought I came to the end of this series because I've only ever heard about these 2 books. But I posted my review on Instagram today and somebody commented that actually there's books 3 and 4 coming out, and book 3 is coming out this year, November, the translated to English version, and the 4th book is already out but it's translated to traditional Mandarin. So I'm not that good at reading in Mandarin, so I'll just be waiting for the translated to English version. So I'm very excited that the 3rd one is coming out. I'll put the cover here. I can't remember the title of it, but yeah, I'm so excited because I mentioned in my review as well that I wasn't ready to part ways with this cafe, and I'm so happy that I can still come back to this world. So yeah, that will be my review for it. Let me see what else I have to say. Let me read you my comments on this. So I left some comments on my own Notion. So I said, wow, I already teared on the MRT. Some more had to stop reading. What is this? And then another one, it was a different day, a different commute. Wow, the second story, mother and son. I like how we follow different characters within the family for this, all mother and son. So this one is basically, in the first book, I think we mainly followed 4 characters. So they were the main story. But for this Tales from the Cafe book, the second story is called Mother and Son. I thought it was following this mother and son, but it was actually the mother's brother and these siblings' mother. So it's within one family in a sense. So I liked that we get to know more characters in a sense. Another comment that I said was, this is a spoiler, so I'll just put a spoiler warning. The back and forth of how Kinuyo, who is the mother, is asking Yukio, the son, about how he's doing. Then he lied, like, oh, I'm making my own meals now, I'm eating well. But then the next sentence will be, he hasn't eaten a proper meal since she died, that kind of thing. Then I was just like, oh my god, like, and it's more than this. It was like a whole exchange of this back and forth, and it's about how he's lying to the mother so that she can feel more comforted in knowing that her son is doing well when he's actually not. And it's just, oh, I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna tear up again, but okay, no, I'm gonna control. It's like thoughts of how we all have times like these, right? When we grow up and then we're trying to make a name for ourselves, want to let our parents know and be comforted by the fact that, you know, your child is doing fine, even though they're not. It just hits me, you know. The next comment was started sniffling on the bus, and then the last comment that I wrote was about the writing thing, which I've already addressed just now. Those were my kind of comments for Tales from the Cafe. And one interesting thing that I noted from traveling on my commute to work, right, I find it so nice to see that people are reading physical books on the commute as well, because it's difficult to know what people are doing behind their phone. So even if they're reading their ebooks, you won't know. But when you see people actually reading physical books on the commute, I'm so intrigued, you know, because I'm thinking like, oh, what book are you reading? I'm trying to see the cover discreetly and just seeing them enjoy reading their book. I saw this person reading a Korean book and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a Korean language novel. I was so tempted to ask him like, oh, where do you buy this from? Because I also want to buy Korean novels, but they're so expensive. So like, but I didn't do it in the end, but it's just like, yeah. The prompts that I managed to clear with Tales from the Cafe, I'll put the board here. For reading prompts, the end of end, that prompt, under 300 pages, that prompt, and last letter, first letter. As for the non-reading prompts, I cleared join sprints and guilt-free activity. So I realized I should have used Tales from the Cafe to clear continuous series so that I can clear a bingo quicker, but it's okay, it's fine. Then the next book that I managed to finish was Blood Sugar by Sascha Rothschild. I hope I didn't butcher that. If I did, I'm so sorry. So I think I told you the synopsis of this also, and I also told you that I was listening to the audiobook and reading this at the same time, and you can see my tabs over here, just 3, but let's talk about it. So my thoughts for this, I didn't realize going into this, but turns out that our main character is a psychologist. So we follow her from young actually, so from young, and then as she starts to grow up and enters university, she studies psychology. Just nice, my major. I don't know how it so happens, but yes. And very interesting because I'm also studying psychology, right? And then to see her thoughts, but her route is different from mine because she clearly wants to become a psychologist, but I don't. So it's kind of interesting to see what would have happened if I wanted to do that as well. And it's very interesting to follow along and be in her mind because she's a psychologist, but she's also a murderer. She acts as a therapist also, and then she counsels people, and at the same time she also has murdered people before. But her perspective of the world and her thoughts are very interesting because she has very logical, rational thoughts, and then she will clearly assess herself and be like, I may be a murderer, but I'm not a sociopath because I have emotions. I can clearly love people. I am clearly loved by other people, that kind of thing. So it's very interesting to read about it. All along I thought this would be 4 stars and above, but mainly because we follow this for the whole book, right? And we follow her along as she tries to prove that she didn't murder her husband. And I don't know, because it's marketed as a mystery thriller, but there weren't a lot of thrilling parts. It's very interesting to read Ruby's perspective and things like that, but there wasn't a lot of parts where I was like, oh my god, what's going to happen next, you know? Mainly the interesting parts were learning more about the people that she has been involved in their deaths and why she became involved and why they had to die, that kind of thing. Also about how eventually what happens at the end, does she manage to prove that she didn't kill her husband or things like that. And there weren't a lot of twists, but it was quite interesting. So in the end I gave 3.5 stars. Trigger warnings for bullying, victim blaming, sexual assault and murder. I'm just very happy that I have actually read this because while the ending I would say wasn't that satisfying for me, everything before the ending was very interesting and I was very intrigued and I kept wanting to finish it, that kind of thing. And at some point I was worried that I would finish it before Tales from the Cafe and it wouldn't have worked for the last letter, first letter prompt, but eventually I finished Tales from the Cafe first and I finished this one. Let me tell you the prompts that I'm going to clear for it. S's on the cover, because you see there's more than one S. Yes, as well as academia theme. So this one might be a bit iffy because if you think of an academia theme, you might think of university life or the studying, that kind of stuff, right? But although this one wasn't very focused on that, we still had it for some parts of the book. I felt that while she's studying to become a psychologist, that kind of thing, and even after she has become a psychologist, there's still all that work needed, right? And her thinking process and all that. So basically, I'm just counting it as an academia theme. I really think that it kind of fits that prompt, so just nice I'll manage to cross it off. I didn't cross off any non-reading prompts for this one because I finished it so quickly after Tales from the Cafe. That is all for my very long update for now. Oh my gosh, it's been quite long already, and I'm very close to hitting a bingo, so I'm going to try to hit a bingo soon. And the next book I'm going to start reading is Finlay Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead. Very excited. I think I can attempt to bring this to work with me, even though it's quite a thick book. This is the second book after Finlay Donovan is killing it. So yes, I'll update more. And also, one last thing before I'll stop this clip. This weekend is the 48-hour readathon for whateverthon, so this vlog will roll over into that. So bye.